The first Clash of the Champions, live on WTBS, the Superstation, March 27th, 1988, live from the Greensboro Coliseum. This was in direct competition with WWE's WrestleMania 4, which was on pay-per-view in Atlantic City. This was actually, I think, very much everybody knows was to get even for the Starrcade 87 fiasco, which I believe Vince McMahon got away with antitrust lawsuit. Jim Crockett could have sued him for it because Vince McMahon tells the cable companies, if you carry Starrcade 87, then you won't have next year's WrestleMania 4. And to get even with this, they did the live Clash of the Champions, which I believe was very successful, versus WrestleMania 4. I think the Clash of the Champions won. The first one had a major rating compared to WrestleMania 4. So I'm now going to review. I did watch the Clash of the Champions. I don't think I watched it live. I didn't have cable till 1990, so I probably watched it on VHS. So this is I've watched it a couple of times over the years. So this is the first time I've reviewed this. The opening contest is what would be called actually an amateur match. It was a one fall match. Meaning the referee only had to count one rather than a 3 count. What was different, I didn't realize, was it was split up in 3 rounds. They would wrestle for 5 minutes, and then the match would be halted for a 30-second rest period, which I didn't know that part. I didn't remember that part. The one thing Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone pointed out, but the one small negative thing against Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. The match was between Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin with Precious versus Mike Rotundo, graduate of Syracuse University, with Games Master Kevin Sullivan. Mike Rotundo was part of his varsity club. And the one thing that was at a disadvantage of Jimmy Garvin was he had this long flowing hair, which amateur wrestlers don't have. They have very, very shortcut hair. As much as they call Jimmy Garvin and Mike Rotundo, I have great respect. I love watching both guys. You know, I've always enjoyed watching both Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin with Precious and Mike Rotundo. I think I'm not sure if this was the beginning of the feud or not. Maybe Kevin Sullivan already had done the angle where he kidnapped Precious, which would lead to the Great American Bash and the Tower of Doom months later. I'm not sure if that feud has started. But Precious does get involved, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. Jimmy Garvin wrestled this, as he always does, as a regular pro wrestling match, and Mike Rotundo was wrestling this as the amateur match. I think that was the original challenge. And Jim and Ross, they emphasized that this would be a one fall match, and referee Teddy Long, which I found disturbing, was about Teddy Long, not about him as a referee, but both Jimmy Garvin and Mike Rotundo were pushing him around, which I thought would have been disqualification. They were really pushing him around. I'm not sure why, but pushing referee around, instant disqualification in any pro wrestling match. Whoa. If it had been Tommy Young, he would have pushed him back. Because Flair was known for that, pushing Tommy Young around, and Tommy Young pushed Ric Flair back. So I'm very surprised that that Teddy Long didn't disqualify either man. And he fought back. Tommy Young would point to his badge as, I'm the referee, I'm in charge here, you don't push me around. Teddy Long was pushing each other guy back. But I'm very surprised they pushed Teddy Long around the way they did. And Jimmy Garvin, he was wrestling this, and they emphasized the one fall match, not a 3 count. And if Jimmy Garvin one fall, he's new TV champion. Mike Rotundo, he's the amateur wrestler at University of Syracuse, New York. The one thing also I noticed that what in the world is that? At ringside, something had fallen, and Kevin Sullivan, it was by the stairway to the stairway into the ring. That you climb the stairs to get in the ring. Something had fallen on the floor, and Kevin Sullivan picked it up. It was so obvious, but I didn't know what it was. It sounded like wood. It was a long piece. What the heck is that? Eventually, Kevin Sullivan climbs up into the ropes, trying to interfere. Jimmy Garvin is gonna fight Kevin Sullivan off. Stop interfering, and he starts pounding against. Jimmy Garvin's hitting at Kevin Sullivan, pounding on him, get away from the ropes. Mike Rotundo goes, I think it's called a roll up or schoolboy roll up, and Teddy Long count, and Mike Rotundo's schoolboy rolls up Jimmy Garvin for the 1 count, and Mike Rotundo retains the World Television title. Then all of a sudden, then Kevin Sullivan, he starts fighting attacking Jimmy Garvin. Then the Varsity Club. Then comes in Rick Steiner, and he starts going after Jimmy Garvin. Then suddenly, Precious enters the ring, which is extremely rare for her to get physically involved. Extremely rare. She's there as the cheerleader. It's his wife, and she comes in with a 2x4. The thing that dropped to the ground that Kevin Sullivan picked up. What was that? She comes with a big 2x4. She was acting like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. She whacks Rick Steiner on the back with a 2x4. Whoa! Then she brings in a coat hanger. Where does metal coat hanger come from? Right? She gets a coat hanger and puts it around Kevin Sullivan's neck, trying to choke him. Whoa! And Jimmy Ross. Whoa! She's gone wild. I've never seen Precious get this wild and go and attack the other wrestlers. No, that's amazing. No. But eventually, but then she's pulling the choke. Jimmy Garvin pulls her away, but she's got a hold of the metal coat hanger, trying to strangle Kevin Sullivan. But Kevin Sullivan and as Jimmy Garvin goes to pull Precious out, Kevin Sullivan is still getting a hold of Precious' legs. He's trying to hold on to her. Well, this gets really wild. It was more interesting wild. Yeah, usually an ending of the match is usually the wild part. But for Precious to get physically involved with foreign objects, that was funny. I didn't expect that. But that's what Jim Crockett wrestling. That's what it's all about. And Jimmy Garvin walks off with Precious, and I love Jim Ross. He may have lost the match, but he keeps the woman. Mike Rotundo retains the TV title with defeating Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin with a one count match to retain the TV title. Next match tonight I thought was pretty early to occur. A 6-man tag team barbed wire match. Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors versus Ivan Koloff and the Powers of Pain. Now, just a month earlier, Dusty Rhodes and Road Warriors, it was actually Dusty Rhodes, Roller Hawk, and Paul Ellering lost the 6-man tag team championship to Ivan Koloff and the Powers of Pain. That was due to Road Warrior Animal was out. They had a powerlifting contest in Greensboro, and Road Warrior Animal was severely injured. They said his eye socket was cracked when the Powers of Pain rammed his eye into one of the barbells, and Animal head mask. And this match, simply the Ross and Tony Giovanni call this a revenge match. And the way that the barbed wire was surrounding, this is still 1988, not into the 1990s, where especially Japan, a promotion called Frontier Martial Arts (FMW), they started what was called the no roped barbed wire match, where all the ropes taken down. Strangely enough, that when Jim Ross and Tony Giovanni were talking about this match, and the officials, the ring crew, were taking down the turnbuckles and said, okay, we're going to make this a no-rope barbed wire match. No, it made no sense what they did. You could see that the top turnbuckle was taken apart. Then you think a no-rope barbed wire match. They're taking all the ropes out. No. Why were they taking the ropes down and turnbuckle apart? When all the combatants approached the ring, the barbed wire was wrapped around the ropes, as like Jim Ross described, and he said he's from Oklahoma, and the farmland, the barbed wire is to keep animals in the owner's land, a property. The barbed wire was wrapped around vertically at a crisscross. It's similar to how a boxing ring was. How there's like a white rope between each of the ropes, preventing the boxers from falling out or leaving. It was, something, maybe, I guess, the NWA and Crockett, that when they did the barbed wire matches, some magazines showed them in their house shows, the way barbed wire matches, the barbed wire was wrapped around the ropes, rather than no ropes, and the barbed wire would take the place, because maybe FMW and then eventually ECW, they would have no roped barbed wire matches. The barbed wire completely took the replace of the ropes. One thing they kept emphasizing that they're big men. These guys are tall, they're huge in body size, and they couldn't maneuver much. And they couldn't go into the ropes because the barbed wire surrounding the ring, surrounding vertically around the rope. So they couldn't really move much. And Dusty Rhodes he got war paint on. His face is painted like Road Warrior Hawk's is. And Animal's wearing that I call it a Spider-Man plastic mask. They attempted a lot of physically offensive maneuvers, but they couldn't do much because they couldn't climb up on the top rope. I think Road Warrior Hawk, he was on the top rope, and I thought he was going to do his flying guillotine or flying off the top rope, a flying clothesline. He couldn't. No, he could. He came off the top rope and hit. I think Warlord. I think it was. I'm not sure. Warlord or Barbarian. Wasn't paying attention who he hit, but he hit him with a right hand. They couldn't do much in this match. Maybe that's why they did this match so early, because these guys couldn't do much in this match. They couldn't go against the ropes. They couldn't go through the ropes, and they called it a Chicago Street Fight Texas barbed wire match. They went outside a little bit, but for big guys, they couldn't go into the ropes. They couldn't do a super whole lot for three against three, six man match. They couldn't do much in this match. Maybe that's why they did this match so early. And the ending came. Road Warrior Animal does a power slam on Warlord. Barbarian thinks he's going to try to counter this by doing a flying headbutt that Barbarian's known for, but Animal gets out of the way and Barbarian clobbers Warlord with it with a flying head drop, and Animal again covers Warlord for the pin and win. The one thing I did catch that for the Powers of Pain to attack Road Warrior Animal, you could see Animal messing with his headgear, the protective headgear. His hand was on the side of it. I noticed that. So then the Powers of Pain were able to knock the mask off, and Jim Ross told him, "Oh no, the mask is falling off. His cracked eye, orbital eye, the eye damage that occurred during the barbed wire, the bodybuilding the weightlifting challenge. They said his eye was cracked and it was being protected by this headgear. That came off, so you can see Animal was loosening up." And then you can see an eye patch over one eye, and I think it was Warlord. He was punching Animal, and Dusty came in eventually Dusty and Paul Ellering come in for the save, but Dusty Rhodes and Road Warriors defeat Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff when Animal pins Warlord. So far in this show, it's only fairly good matches. They're not doing a hell of a whole lot, there'll be the main event coming up with Sting versus Ric Flair for the NWA World Title eventually. But let's see what's going to come up for this next to the show. So far, the matches have only been fair. Next match tonight is for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. Current champions Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, who had previously defeated, upset the Rock and Roll Express back in September of 1987. Due to a Midnight Express attack. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson and Rock and Roll Express eventually left after Starrcade 87. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson defending against a pretty much new tag team combination of Barry Windham and Lex Luger. And Luger had just left the Horsemen upset with the loss. He lost the U.S. title to Dusty Rhodes at Starrcade 87. Barry Windham told him all year long in 1987, you don't belong, you don't be associated with the Four Horsemen. And Luger did join the Horsemen. Eventually, he left. His loss to Dusty Rhodes really was disturbing, and J.J. Dillon didn't like him speaking for himself, so he left the Horsemen and teamed up with old friend Barry Windham out of Florida. They knew each other out of Florida, and now they tag team. And this match was very good, a lot more impressive than the Midnight Express Fantastics match. Much more impressive. The one thing that bothered me, and it happened in an earlier match, is the usage of the kind of a reverse bulldog. Bulldog is usually you're going forward. This is a standing, and you drop a guy on his head, kind of a reverse bulldog without moving. They called it DDT, which was Jake the Snake Roberts maneuver. He named that move in either it was Mid South or more to WWF, and it was in the WWF that in a Mean Gene Okerlund interview, he asked him what DDT stand for, and he simply said the end. It was Jake Roberts' move per name. He named it. And other people, especially Arn Anderson, in another match, they kept, and the announcers kept saying DDT. Less Jake Roberts is fond, it doesn't mind someone else using his name, his maneuver name, and many wrestlers abuse it. They usually bend the head when they drop the guy on their head. They bend it his head at an angle and then do the drop. Or Jake Roberts would do a straight drop. That's what I've always liked. And Arn Anderson did a bending head drop. But it was a very good match. And the only thing that was disturbing was the ending. J.J. Dillon brings a chair in the ring, puts it in the corner, and I think he meant for, was it Luger? It pushed Arn Anderson off very slightly, and Arn ran right into the chair, knocked out, and Luger goes to pin Arn Anderson for the win. But if you see how Luger very nonchalantly, he slightly pushes Arn Anderson in the direction, and Arn Anderson goes full steam ahead right into the chair, and it's the same thing every time something goes wrong. JJ Dillon uses a chair. How many times that happens, and it always backfires. But it was a very good tag team match. It was very interesting. But Barry Windham and Lex Luger upset Tully Blanchard and Anderson to win the NWA World Tag Team Championship. Okay, the next and the last match of the night, the main event, I just finished watching it, was NWA World Champion Ric Flair defending against Sting in a 45-minute match. They actually had celebrity judges if the match went to a draw. There was former NWA wrestling star Sandy Scott, who is the brother of George Scott, and George Scott's more known as a longtime booker of both companies, WWF and NWA. Sandy Scott was part referee. Also, Jason Hervey, who was a star of the ABC drama The Wonder Years, and he became a close friend eventually to Eric Bischoff. TBS was promoting a new reboot of Leave It to Beaver with an actor named Eddie Haskell, and he was apparently a judge. Then a Penthouse Playmate or Pet of the Year, whomever, this blonde in a dress, Patty Mullen, if I'm saying the name right, and you definitely know she would vote for Ric Flair. This is the match that put Sting on the map, and everybody knows it. It was a tremendous match. A lot of times Sting wasn't selling for Flair. I mean, everything that Flair was taking it to him, everything that Flair attacked with him, for majority of the match, Sting was playing the powerhouse, a new rookie, new kid on the block, and everybody knew it. This was a match that made Sting. Ric Flair was playing the experienced veteran as usual, and oh man, at times he as much as he delivered, Sting was taking it. And I was watching for Sting's rookie mistakes. He made a few, not many, very few. At times, when would the change of who was taking advantage? When would Flair? I mean, Sting, of course, the face, he shines, kicks Flair's ass for the first majority of the match. You want to see when a balance would change back to Flair, and Sting made not many mistakes whatsoever. Flair gave a good punch to his ribs. That was it was a few turnovers. Flair got a punch to Sting's ribs. There was a time Sting rammed into the turnbuckle and hurt his arm. Flair would lift up Sting's knee and get ready for a figure four about a couple of times. Ram Sting outside against a railing. Flair was who was more on the offensive, Sting or Flair? and it was a great 45. A match went 45 minutes. There's one thing that Tony Schiavone mentioned that they had met before, and maybe been at some kind of TV taping or something, or maybe a house show. But I thought this was the first major encounter, Clash of the Champions. The first Clash of Champions is known for the Sting and Flair first major encounter on TV. This is live. Each of these Clash of the Champions, I've seen. I was looking at the future ones I'll run a review, and each have 5 matches. So they're setting them for a TV time since it's live broadcast. Now, who wasn't a fan of Sting? I love one thing when Sting was covering Flair for a pin once. They were yelling, it was mere inches, Tony Schiavone, 2 3/4, and Jim Ross, we're talking inches from a new champion. Similar, same thing there was a Ric Flair Barry Windham match. I believe it was the 1-hour draw, I think, 1987. And Jim Ross had yelled, Tommy Young measured just a half an inch. That's what Jim Ross was. When how many times Sting did a couple figure fours, Flair. I mean, most of until I think it was the fatigue. The only thing that really changed the balance of the match for Flair was the time limit, and he's known as the 16-minute man. He can go time limit draws. All that cold training, freezing air training he did in the AWA up in Minneapolis. He trained for this match. He can go the 60 minutes. But the longer the match went, Sting felt the exhaustion. But Sting was an incredibly offensive. He's the young rookie. The only thing that Flair could escape from was playing the dirtiest player in the game. At times he would grab the ropes, holding Sting in a figure four. It's the reason that this match went to a time limit draw, that Sting had to show that he is worthy of the World Heavyweight Championship, and showing Flair, showing us the fans that he was the future. It's 1988, we're going into the 1990s, and Sting dominated NWA and WCW in the 90s. He dominated it. So that was my review of Clash of Champions 1, and ending with Sting and Ric Flair, ending in a 45-minute time limit draw. And the judges, oh man, the judges, yeah. Patty Mulholland, the Playmate, Pet of the Year, something from Penthouse. She ruled for Flair, of course. I think it was Eddie Haskell. Oh no, sorry, it was Gary Juster. He ruled in favor of Sting, and Sandy Scott ruled in favor of a draw. So they weren't going to bother going with what about the vote of Eddie Haskell and the vote of Jason Hervey, because Eddie Haskell and so it's unfair. They said this match must have a winner. So why didn't they tell Sandy Scott as a judge, you have to pick a winner? You can't say a draw. So that's what the disturbing thing about the judges. They didn't ask Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. They didn't ask Jason Hervey their votes. So what's the point of what's the point of the votes if any of the judges can say a draw? That's the disturbing thing about this being a draw. But this match made Sting, put Sting on the map, basically. Okay, so my next review will be Clash of the Champions 2. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.